Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, let's go. Kevin here, top 1 financial advisor and best-selling author. We are here to talk about the stock market. Today, I'm going to answer yet another question that I got yesterday about portfolio rebalancing. When should you do it? So in today's video, we need to talk about when you should rebalance your portfolio, what it means to do that, and then why it's important. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So rebalancing. This is essentially the practice of making sure your portfolio is balanced. What do I mean by that? When you are starting to invest, you generally have a mix of stocks and bonds. For example, I talked about yesterday that my portfolio mix is like 80-20. 80% stocks, 20% bonds, based on where I am in life, when I plan on retiring, and how much money I've already invested. That's just the right mix for me. You can take what's called a risk tolerance questionnaire to figure out where your risk should be and how you should allocate your own funds. But again, it's going to depend on how long you've been investing, when you plan on retiring, and a bunch of other factors. So if I am at 80-20, or you're at, let's say 50-50, just to make the math easy, based on how the year goes, you may start out at 50-50, but then let's say the market is great, you've invested in some good things, and now you're at 60-40 or 70-30. You have to go back and make sure that things are balanced to get them back to where you need them to be. When you don't rebalance, you could be taking on more risk than what you intended, and when and if the market falls, you could be subject to greater losses than what you are expected. So someone who has a 50% stocks, 50% bonds portfolio mix, you're probably conservative. You're probably, in your 50s or 60s, and just kind of just managing. You're trying not to necessarily grow the most money, but really in that mostly protection phase and moving close to retirement if you're not already there. That makes a lot of sense. You cannot afford to take on major risk. But if you haven't rebalanced your portfolio in 10 or 15 years, you could be at 80-20 and take on way more risk than what you expected. This is one of the reasons why the 2008 recession was so severe, because we saw so many people who are a year or two from retirement and never rebalanced. That means for 30 years or even 25 years or 15 or whatever year you want to take, they were not rebalancing, meaning you had all this run up from the stock market, things were going great, you started out at whatever you started out with, and you say, hey, I'm ready to retire, and then you go look and it's 80-20, but you're retiring tomorrow and the market crashes. Those were tough conversations for a lot of people. So you want to make sure that you balance. The way that I like to look at this is like getting a haircut. Like when y'all start to see me wearing hats, it's time for me to go get a haircut, and then shortly after, y'all see that I went and got a haircut. And essentially you are coming out and saying, look, I'm 50-50, I'm 80-20, whatever that thing is going to be, but as things grow and change, which is natural to do, you got to come back and trim and make sure they are even back to where they need to be. Now, how often should you do this? There are really two schools of thought, and I think one is a little bit better and more important than another. I will say, if you want to read more in detail, you should check out this article, because I wrote that one. But essentially what you're looking for is you want to go back and check, at least go back and check your balance between 1 to 4 times a year. And I say this all the time. Quarterly is the absolute most you want to do this. Annually is like definitely recommended. So for me, June, I do twice a year, June and December. I sit down and say, okay, I'm supposed to be 80-20. How far away am I from that? Do I need to add more money, or do I need to sell something to make sure that I'm back at that portfolio mix? Another way to look at it is when you are away from that portfolio mix by 5% or more. I think that's a little bit more important. But again, it's not something I'm going to check every day. That's really something I would check, again, for me, twice a year. For some of my clients previously, it's like once a year or at most quarterly. That is really what you're checking for. So for example, if I wake up one day and notice that my portfolio is, let's say, 81% to 19, I'm not gonna, I don't care. Like, it's totally fine. It's not going to be at that exact same point every single day for the rest of the year or anything like that. But if it is at, let's say, 86% or something like that, then I need to kind of trim it back down and get to 80. It's really a 5% threshold. If it's above that, that's when you want to come back and move things back to where they should be. Now, depending on what you're investing in, again, that's not going to be a daily process at all. You'll probably hit that once or twice a year, depending on what it is you are investing in. But if you just go back and check it quarterly, you'll be fine. You'll catch it when and if it even becomes a problem. If you check it at least once a year, you're usually going to get yourself right back to the spot that you should be. In my personal experience, I haven't gone from 80-20 to 90-10. is rare if you are checking it once or twice a year. You can usually catch those pretty early and just bring it back down. And that's totally fine. But that is when you should do it. When you are 5% or more above that target, or you should just go back and check it between 1 to 4 times a year. Whatever schedule works best for you. Now, the key here to figure out what your balance should be and how to rebalance is this. Before you do any of that, you need to decide and figure out how you want to be allocated to begin with, because you can't rebalance what you don't know, right? So there are 2 ways to do this. You can do what's called a risk tolerance questionnaire. Use Google Vanguard risk tolerance questionnaire. You'll pull up this list of questions. It's like 9 questions, and it'll spit out and say, based on where you are, you should have 60% stocks, 40% bonds. It'll tell you that, and then you take that and then compare what your portfolio has it in. They have this on public, but again, public is not all of your assets because you got a 401k, you got some other stuff. So personally, I use an Excel sheet. I know it's nerdy, but that's just what I like to use, and I just pull all those accounts together. You can use an app like Personal Capital is another one that will pull all of that information for you and then give you what your allocation is, and you can make decisions from there. So a bunch of different ways to do that. We can talk about that in a later video. All you got to do is just ask me and we can do that. So aside from that, that is how you can figure out where you are and where you should be. And then when it comes to actually making those moves, again, 2 ways to do this. You can either add more money into the asset that is lower than what it should be, and that can even you out. However, it could be a little more expensive. So if we're trying to rebalance, you know, $100,000 portfolio or $200,000 portfolio, and you find out that you need $30,000, everybody don't have that just laying around, so it makes it a little more difficult. What is most common is that some people will sell off of the asset that is too high, take a little bit of that and put it into the asset to kind of even things out. So if I'm supposed to be at 50-50, but I'm at 60-40, I'm gonna sell 10% of my stocks and take that money and then go buy bonds. That'll get me right back to where I should be. To do that, relatively simple. You just hit sell and then go buy more of whatever it is you need to buy. But you do want to be careful because it depends on what account that this is in. So if it's an account like Public or Robinhood or any non-retirement account, then I could be subject to capital gains taxes. So you do want to be very careful there. If I'm doing this inside like 401k or a traditional IRA or something else where it's tax deferred, then it doesn't really matter because I'm not going to pay taxes now anyway, because I'm not 59 and a half. I'm not planning on retiring tomorrow and pulling out those accounts. So you do want to be mindful there. I actually discuss a lot more of this inside of the article, so you want to make sure that you do check that out if you want more details. But that's essentially it. When should you rebalance? You want to check for rebalancing 1 to 4 times a year. Personally, I do it twice. I'm right in the middle. I'm just right in the middle. And then how do you rebalance? Again, you can sell off some of the assets and move it over. And then anytime during those checks that you come back and just, you know, have a come to Jesus moment with your portfolio, if it's above 5% or more, or I guess above 5% is 5% or more. But when you're above 5%, that's where you really want to kind of pay attention and start to consider rebalancing and then do that process. And that's it. It can be something that can be done in less than 10 minutes or so. Once you set up, you know, whether it's Personal Capital, if you can use that to track, whether it's an Excel sheet, it's just putting in what your numbers are, seeing what it should be, and then making those moves. And that's it. So that is when you should rebalance. Again, one of the more important things that you should do on a regular basis. This is just general portfolio hygiene, if you will, just to make sure that you are in the right space, right places for your investments. Got it? All right. So tonight, because I'm recording this earlier in the day, which is what I try to do in most cases, but in either case, tonight we're going to reveal the top 10 stocks that you should be looking at right now. Everybody got a list of 5 the other day on the channel. That video did do quite well, so this means that you don't want to miss what happens inside the members only later tonight. So make sure you check it out. You can hit this button down here or go to this website right here, and then below the video and also inside the description, 3 ways to join the members only for exclusive video content. All right, that's it for me. I'll talk to you later. Bye.